So I took the burnout truck out for some testing yesterday. I did film it on a GoPro head harness thing with an old GoPro 3, and because I do want to get a video out with the burnouts happening and the testing, but the footage just wasn't good enough, so I can't use it, unfortunately. But just a quick update. When I did do that testing, had a little bit of smoke coming off the tyres, which was good. Once it gets a bit hotter, there should be a bit more smoke coming off the tyres, and it performed well with these aluminium hex adapters, so it all held up. But something that did break on it, it didn't break, it just came off. The input shaft, so zoom in on that. So this here, this is the input shaft, diff input shaft, and there's a pinion gear on the end of that inside the diff housing. What happened was, you'll see in the next clip coming up, this bearing, there's a bearing here. So this bearing popped out, and so this input shaft coupling was loose, basically. So it was spinning around, and yeah, but it was actually a relief, because I thought some of the gears inside the diff had shredded, which I'm always worried about, but they didn't. It was just, so what I done with that input shaft, that coupling there, I made up, you'll see it in the next clips, I made up a little spacer in there, and it's basically failed. So I've ordered the genuine input shaft coupling from Traxxas, so I'll be installing that, and then the next video will be the one when we take it out. I'm sure that is the last piece of the puzzle. So the next video will be the burnout video now. It's just a little setback with that. Okay, so it's back in the workshop, trying to figure out what's happened here. So spinning, turning the wheels, the diff still feels alright, and you can see when I turn this wheel, the other wheel's still turning, which tells me that the diff might still be okay, but we won't know until I actually take the diff and have a look. But what I can see is that doesn't look right. So that bearing there has come out. That should be inside here, inside this housing. So that's something, that's a clue. And when I turn these wheels, see the bearing's turning, but it's not turning the drive shaft. But when I turn the gear, when I turn the motor gear by hand, of course it turns the drive shaft. So the drive shaft is somehow not connected to the diff gear. So let's just take that grub screw out first, and then see what we can find. but it's looking like I'm going to have to take the diff apart, which I've done it so many times it's pretty easy now, so I'll just do that and then have a look. Okay, so the diff cover's taken off, so it's pretty straightforward. I can take it off. I used to strip all this down just to get the diff out, but I don't have to. You just take that cover off and it exposes the rear diff. And you can see in there, you can see it's turning all right. And you can actually just see that gear at the back there, that pinion gear. And it's turning. It's a bit hard to see. That pinion gear inside is still turning. So it's still got to take a couple more things out. Well, so far it's good news, because the diff is fine. So when I turn it, the gears, I don't have to pull the gears out that are inside here, because I can feel that they're not actually stripped. So the diff's okay, and that big main gear is okay, the teeth are all intact. And then in here you've got that, I'm just going to call it a pinion gear, that's intact as well. I thought it would all be shredded, but it's not. So that's Traxxas. Traxxas make good parts, good quality, because there's a lot of torque going through those gears. So it looks like all that happened was that bearing. You can see I've pushed that bearing back in. That bearing was out before. So all I done was push that bearing back in, and it's all fine now. I've just got to put it back together and test it, but it appears that all that happened was that bearing just came out. But I've got to find out why it came out to stop it from happening again. So that motor's got so much torque. I could just turn the punch settings down so it's not so punchy, because it's got more than enough torque to just spin those wheels and do burnouts. So I'll look at turning the punch settings down, just turning everything down a bit so it's a little bit more gentle on the gears, and then I'll test it again. But I'll put the diff back in, find out why that bearing's popping out. So it's back together, and I'm quite happy actually, because there's no broken parts, which means that after all of that abuse that those gears took doing those skids, all the gears held up, and I thought they were going to be stripped, but they're not. They're all in good condition, so that's really good. You can see that the diff is fine, that's good. The only thing that happened was the bearing popped out, which you saw before, so I've just pushed that bearing in, and I've taken the coupling out. Now the problem is, I think, in this coupling, that coupling right there. So this coupling of this is the only piece that I'm not sure about, because I think this is the suspect, because you can see that little steel piece inside here. I had to make that up because the Traxxas pinion gear didn't fit in this coupling. So I've made up a little ring spacer, which you can see there, and it's not ideal. It's not. So what I'll end up doing is just getting the correct coupling from Traxxas that fits, that suits that gear, fits that that spigot sticking out of there, which is part of the pinion gear. I'll get the proper coupling and put that in, and then we'll be back up and running. So it's good news, actually. The other thing I wanted to do was just tighten the brakes up a little bit. So turn this thing around. So these are the brakes in here. It's a Hobby Station. Shout out to Hobby Station, East Tamaki, Auckland, New Zealand. So it's a good servo, 20 kgs, and I just shortened the pin in there. So I've got the brakes. The brakes are on this switch just here. So when I hit that, that's the front brakes. So all I done was I just shortened the travel. So the brakes should be a bit stronger now, the front brakes. Another thing that I've noticed, I just want to try and turn down the punch setting, because there's a lot of impact on the gears when I pull the throttle. So I just want to try and reduce the punch settings so it's not so so that when you initially pull the trigger on the controller, so it's not so much of an impact. Okay, so to turn down the punch settings, if you've got a Spectrum smart speed controller and the Spectrum transmitter, so I've got the DX5 Pro, then you can change the punch settings using the transmitter, using this transmitter. So to do that, I should say you can do it using the button, using the on-off button. That's that button there. But it's hard because it's like a Morse code thing. It beeps at you, and then you wait for 5 beeps, and then you can change one setting. But it's all like Morse code. It's quite difficult. So it's easier if you do it using this controller. So it says here, I'll just go back out of this. So that's your home screen. So just use the scroll wheel scroll down, make sure the unit's on, and then scroll down to firmware program, and then you have to do this right steer 100% for 5 seconds. So right steer, I think it's that way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then left steer 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we've entered that mode, programming mode. Okay, so it wasn't that straightforward, but I've read the manual. So it's, you use the throttle trigger forward and reverse to select, and then you use the steering wheel to select again. So I'm pulling the throttle now. Oh yeah, see it's changing? It's a bit hard to... So that's the cutoff voltage. So there's the punch there. So see it's set to level 4. So I just want to try and change that. So we use the... No. So there, punch, level 4. Level, oh yeah, it's changed. That's level 3 now. That's level 2. I want to turn it right down to level 1. What happens if I go another one? Then it goes back to number 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I want to save that. So I'll just push the throttle again. That takes it down to timing. Oh yeah, and then save. So let's... Yeah, and then it resets. Done. So that's a lesser punch setting. Okay, so we won't know until I've hooked up the drive shaft to see how it responds now.